Pride and Prejudice, Chapter 5, third video. Well, I believe we finished last class talking about Elizabeth, and I think the point is she's quite honest to herself, right? And I couldn't develop that idea very well because the space of the video was almost finishing. But what do I mean by that? You know, she admits that she could agree that Mr. Darcy had the right to be arrogant, you know, supercilious. Remember that word, right? Why? Because, you know, he comes from an incredible family, he has a lot of money, and etc. And then she says, a little bit in irony, of course, but she says, that is very true. And I could easily forgive his pride if he hadn't mortified mine. So basically she's saying, yeah, if he hadn't done that, I would admit his pride, you know. Keep in mind, usually what would people do? I don't know the other girls. I don't know her mother, for example. She would say no. He's a horrible man, you know, and under any circumstances, I would say that he's a horrible man, you know. It's not just because he offended me that I'm saying he's a horrible man, you know. He's too proud of himself. Elizabeth admits no. You know, he offended me, and that's why I think he doesn't deserve his pride. And I don't know if I mentioned in the end of the video, the idea is that kind of I would call, I don't know, self-sincerity, right? Keep in mind, when we are sincere, this is an interesting etymology, you know. Sincere it comes from Latin, that is sin, right, or sen, or sem, or without, right? And then we have queira, that is, in Portuguese is cera, and in English it wax. Okay, but what is that? We're talking about theater here, you know. You would have a wax mask, right, and you wouldn't show your true emotions, right? You would show just the motion of the mask. Now, if you are without wax, you are honest, right? So think about it. One of the things we most do, and we do very well, unfortunately, we can hide our true feelings from ourselves. As a matter of fact, Machado de Assis is a specialist writing about how we can hide and how we can fool ourselves, right? Now, why do we do that? For self-protection. Self-protection of what? Of our self-image. We always create a small story in our heads, you know, and that story is us, you know. Oh, I am a guy that likes this, that understands this, and etc. and etc. And whenever things happen that damage that little story, that self-image, we try to lie to ourselves. Let me give you a practical example. Let's imagine I start reading a book, alright? I love reading books, I love analyzing books, and there is this book, and I'm trying to read, and my friend, who doesn't like to read so much, is commenting with me about how incredible the book is, and about this lots of things he understood, right? So I get the book, and the book's too hard, you know, and I'm having a very hard time understanding what is going on there. Okay, so the truth is, the reality is, the book is interesting, but very hard, alright? But think about it. I have a self-image, right? I have a little story that I invented about me. I'm not saying that that little story is always wrong. I'm saying it's a little story, right? Sometimes it's a very interesting story. It describes very well what I've been through, my personality and etc. But it's a story in the end. Okay, why it's a story? Because at any time I can change. What we are is not the story of what we say we are. Okay. Well, so the little story I tell to myself and I tell everybody is I am a guy who likes to read books and I understand books. On the other hand, the little story I have about my friend is he doesn't understand such complex books, right? At that moment, I have two roads I can take. The first road is I'm going to admit to myself the truth and I'm going to damage my self-image. I'm going to say to myself, look, you are not as smart as you thought, right? Your friend is not as dumb as you thought, right? He understood the book much better than you did. I'm sorry to say. I'm sorry to say it. Well, that's pretty painful, right? So what do we usually do? And now I describe the second road. The second road is, no, this book, so this is the book my friend told me about. Let's imagine. This book here, no, this book here is, and then I'll find lots of, depending on what I have in my mind, I'll find lots of reasons, lots of explanations to say that the book is not good. Because if I can convince myself that the book is not good, therefore my friend likes something that is not that great after all, right? And I'm still the guy, the literature guy, and he's not. And I preserve my self-image, all right? But of course that's a ridiculous way because I'm just lying to myself. But I would try to say, no, this is one of those postmodern books that is just about crazy stuff. It doesn't mean anything, And I'll tell my friend about real good books, and I'll indicate very nice books so that he can read and just forget this one because this one, So think about it. This is what we do, right? Now, admitting, that... for example, I don't like this book so much, because my friend can understand it better than I do, and then I feel a little bit hurt, admitting that it's a big deal, right? And I do believe that you can reach that level of admitting, something that hurt your self-image. You can reach that in two ways. The first way is you work on your personality. You find, where you lie to yourself. You work very hard, and through the years you're going to get better and better, and you're going to get more and more refined in the, towards perfection. That's one way. In another way, some people are just born, sincere, meaning that they don't care. I remember this very nice girl. She was in love with my friend, and she was my friend as well. And the guy didn't want to call her anymore, And instead of, as I have seen many cases, instead of giving a speech like, "Oh, of course I don't like him anyway," or anything like that, she didn't humiliate herself like, "Oh, he's everything to me." She said, "Well, I'll go on with my life." So she wasn't on the other end, in the opposite end, right? I'll go on with my life, but of course I liked him so much. Of course, I felt good with him. And she didn't call him back or anything, but she didn't humiliate herself, right? Well, because she didn't call him back, I think this already shows. But she didn't lie to herself, saying that she didn't like him, She was very honest about it. And she never thought about, perfecting herself and to stop hiding stuff. She just didn't think of hiding to herself that her life would go on, of course, but she was hurt. Well, I know my digression is pretty far here, but some people would say now she's being just ironic here, right? Because nobody deserves pride. I'm not that sure. In this society, the author, of course, the author sometimes is a little bit ironic, but it seems that, look, as I told you in the last video, okay, so there's this guy, he's awesome at I don't know, playing soccer, and then he gets to the place and say, oh, I'm sorry guys, but now you'll see what real soccer is. Of course that's annoying, but it would be much more annoying if it were a guy that doesn't play soccer well, so that's the point there. Okay, so let's continue. Pride, observed Mary, who piqued herself upon the solidity of her reflections, is a very common failing, I believe. By all that I have read, I am convinced that it is very common indeed, that human nature is particularly prone to it. Human nature has a huge tendency to it, to pride. And that there are very few of us who do not cherish a feeling of self-complacency on the score of some quality or another, real or imaginary. Okay? If you cherish a feeling, you have that feeling dear to you. Vanity and pride are different things, though. Are different things, though the words are often used synonymously. A person may be proud without being vain. Pride relates more to our opinion of ourselves. Vanity to what we would have others to think of us. So pride is self-opinion. Vanity is like, I want other people to admire me. Okay? And then of course the most popular form of vanity, I want other people to admire my physical appearance. But could be I want other people to admire my intellectual abilities. This is vanity as well. Pride is, I'm better than everybody. I don't care if they're going to admire me or not, right? So pride can come with vanity or not. If I were as rich as Mr. Darcy, cried a young Lucas, so it's a boy, one of the boys there, who came with his sisters, I should not care how proud I was. I would keep a pack of foxhounds, it's a kind of dog, and drink a bottle of wine a day. Then you would drink a great deal more than you ought. Than you should, said Mrs. Bennet. And if I were to see you at it, I should take away your bottle directly. The boy protested that she should not. She continued to declare that she would, and the argument ended only with the visit, right? So Mrs. Bennet started teasing the boy, and the boy would, continue saying that he would drink the bottle, and that went on until the end of the visit. One thing I would like to call your attention to: Mary is somebody very interesting, I don't know if you remember when her father asked her to say something intelligent. Her father was making fun of her, and she reads lots of books, and she couldn't, she couldn't get out of her world made of books and say something smart, she was taken aback by the situation there. It's interesting because here she says something, apparently no, it's very correct and it's very smart what she said, but she's in the world of books, If you see what happens, nobody pays attention to her. She talks about pride, and vanity, and she gives definitions, and people just ignore her and go on, right? So, and of course, there is this thing, she's not the main character of our book, right? So why isn't she? That's very, very interesting, right? And how much the world of books, isolated from the world of reality, should be respected. Maybe that's an underlying question here.